At the core of the 1970s rock scene, ballads were far more than mere filler. They were powerful anthems weaving tales of love, heartbreak, and the human experience. Here are 10 iconic rock ballads from that decade that ignited deep emotions, shaped unforgettable moments, and continue to resonate through the years. 10. Simple Man by Lynyrd Skynyrd, crafted by Ronnie Van Zant and Gary Rossington. Simple Man was inspired by a heartfelt conversation Van Zant had with his grandmother after his mother's passing. Her words about humility, love, and focusing on what truly matters became the song's emotional backbone. Recorded in 1973 at Studio One in Doraville, Georgia, and included on their debut album, Simple Man stood out as a quiet gem among tracks filled with guitar-driven intensity. Its raw power and grounded wisdom have made it one of Lynyrd Skynyrd's most enduring songs. Rossington's steady, melodic guitar lines gave the lyrics room to resonate, while Van Zant's delivery felt like sincere advice shared, not a performance.
Forget your lust for the rich man's gold.
Over the years, Simple Man has become an anthem for life's milestones, played at funerals, graduations, and moments of personal reflection. Dust in the Wind by Kansas. Dust in the Wind wasn't intended to be a chart topper. It began as a finger-picking exercise by guitarist Kerry Livgren. His wife overheard the melody and urged, "That's beautiful. You should make it a song." What followed was a moment of understated brilliance. Recorded at Woodland Sound Studio in Nashville and released in 1977 on Point of No Return, this track veered from Kansas's typical prog rock complexity. Eschewing electric guitars and grand choruses, it relied on acoustic layers, violin, and a hauntingly simple message. The lyrics, drawn from Ecclesiastes, "All we are is dust in the wind," are both poetic and deeply existential. For a band known for elaborate soundscapes, this minimalist ballad became their biggest hit, proving that simplicity can strike the deepest chord. Love Hurts by Nazareth. Few songs captured heartbreak as viscerally as Love Hurts. Originally, performed by the Everly Brothers and later by Roy Orbison, Nazareth's 1974 version transformed it into something raw and powerful. By slowing the tempo, cranking up the distortion, and letting Dan McCafferty's gritty voice rip through each word, they redefined the track. Recorded at Escape Studios in Kent, England, and released on Hair of the Dog, it was an emotional standout in a hard rock album. McCafferty didn't just sing, he embodied the lyrics, conveying exhaustion, resentment, and an unhealed wound. Though it never reached the top of the UK charts, it lingered on Norway's charts for an astonishing 60 weeks, a testament to its universal resonance. Beth by Kiss No. One expected Kiss, known for their theatrical excess, to deliver one of the decade's most tender ballads, yet Beth did just that. Born from a playful jab between drummer Peter Criss and former bandmate Stan Penridge about a bandmate's wife interrupting rehearsals, it evolved into something deeply moving within Kiss's universe. Recorded at the record plant in New York City and released in 1976 on Destroyer, Beth stood, a part with no guitars or heavy drums, just piano, strings, and Chris's unexpectedly vulnerable vocals. It was a weary, apologetic love letter from the road, brimming with quiet sincerity. Producer Bob Ezrin pushed the band to take the risk, and it paid off. Beth became Kiss's highest charting single, reaching number 7 on the Billboard Hot 100. For a band built on spectacle, Beth showed that the softest moments could have the loudest impact. Freebird by Lynyrd Skynyrd, penned by Alan Collins and Ronnie Van Zant. Freebird starts as a gentle farewell and builds into one of rock's most iconic guitar finales. The lyrics were sparked by a real conversation, Van Zant's response to a girlfriend asking why he wouldn't settle down. This vulnerability, paired with Collins's soaring guitar lines, gave the track its raw emotional depth. The second half explodes into a freewheeling, electrified storm of dual guitars that defined Lynyrd Skynyrd's live performances and etched the song into rock history. Over time, Freebird became more than a song. It became a rite of passage, shouted by crowds, and forever tied to themes of freedom, loss, and letting go. Dream On by Aerosmith. Steven Tyler wrote Dream On as a teenager, long before Aerosmith's debut album. It wasn't until 1972, in the stark halls of Intermedia Sound in Boston, that the band captured it, crafting a slow-burning emotional swell that became their signature. Released in 1973 on their self-titled debut Aerosmith, this brooding minor key, Ballads stood out, rising to a searing climax. Tyler's vocals, both strained and soaring, didn't just hit notes. They struck raw nerves. His voice cracked, not from inexperience, but from pushing past limits to capture something authentic and profound. Stairway to Heaven by Led Zeppelin. In late 1970, within the rustic walls of Headley Grange, a Victorian house-turned-studio in Wales, Led Zeppelin forged their most legendary ballad. By a roaring fireplace, Jimmy Page and Robert Plant began crafting Stairway to Heaven. Released in 1971 on Led Zeppelin 4, it was more than a song. It was a journey. From its soft acoustic opening with recorders to its bluesy midsection and electrified climax, it traced an emotional arc. Plant's lyrics, scrawled in a burst of inspiration as Page strummed the opening chords, felt otherworldly, as if channeled from elsewhere.
In my thoughts I have seen rings of smoke through the trees.
Though never a single, it became the most requested song on FM radio, recorded with the Rolling Stones' mobile studio, redefining the scope of a ballad. Fun fact, John Paul Jones's haunting intro was played on a wooden recorder, not a synthesizer, lending it a medieval, ethereal quality. Time by Pink Floyd Time captures love, loss, and longing in a profound, universal way. Recorded at the iconic Abbey Road Studios in London and released in 1973 on The Dark Side of the Moon, this track unfolds like a slow, ticking spiral. It opens with the eerie chime of clocks, each meticulously recorded around London by engineer Alan Parsons. Nick Mason's resonant drums set the stage for David Gilmour's voice, which delivers a weary yet piercing truth. Roger Waters' lyrics offer no solace, instead issuing a stark warning. You are young and life is long, and then one day you find 10 years have got behind you. It's not just somber, it's a wake-up call. Gilmour's guitar solo, Drenched, in delay and desperation, remains one of rock's most emotionally gripping moments. Decades later, time stops listeners in their tracks, not with drama, but with its unflinching honesty, urging reflection before it's too late. Bell Bottom. Blues by Derek and the Dominoes, some ballads whisper their pain, and Bell Bottom Blues does so with piercing intensity. Written by Eric Clapton in early 1970 during his time with Derek and the Dominoes, it was born from his unrequited love for Pattie Boyd, who also inspired Layla. Recorded at Criteria Studios in Miami, Florida, and featured on Layla and Other assorted love songs, the song's restraint set it apart.
I would gladly do, 'cause I don't wanna fade away.
Clapton's guitar ached with raw emotion, but never overpowered his fragile, pleading vocals. This wasn't a grandiose ballad, but a raw human cry for understanding and perhaps forgiveness. Fun fact, the recording sessions were chaotic, marked by drug use and tension, yet Bell Bottom Blues emerged pristine, like an uninterrupted confession. Angie by the Rolling Stones. In 1973, the Rolling Stones, often known for their rebellious edge, showed they could break hearts with Angie. Recorded at Dynamic Sound Studios in Kingston, Jamaica, and released on Goat's Head Soup, this piano-led ballad was steeped in weariness and regret. Mick Jagger's vocals, unusually tender, wavered between apology and resignation, while Keith Richards' acoustic guitar provided quiet strength, Fans speculated about its inspiration. Was it David Bowie's wife or Marianne Faithfull? Richards later revealed the name came from his newborn daughter, but the song's emotional depth outshone any backstory. These 10 rock ballads remain timeless, their emotional weight undiminished. Rock songs from 1987 we'll never forget, for a fresh wave of anthems and memories.